Prepare yourself for a sprawling discussion on just about anything, where critical thinking meets pop culture in a collision of mind-bending proportions. Please secure all neurons and prepare for full frontal cortex. It's time for Incoherent Ramblings. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Incoherent Ramblings.
Surprised me on
This is episode 019. I gave a countdown.
Sierra 19?
Sierra 19, Foxtrot 3, over, we got Black Ops 3 going in, Hector 4.
The countdown was kind of like 3, 2, oh, everybody!
019, and today we're going back to our very broad topics as we hit on creativity. Yay. And so we will be talking about one type of creativity. Yes, we'll show you that one type in the show notes of creativity.
That was the Groundhog Day countdown.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Check the show notes.
So, dude, I forgot you did that, and it scared me again. Okay, so creativity will be today's episode. I'm Joey Shamel. I'm your host, because I always forget to introduce myself at the beginning, so let's do that now. Go, Paul!
I'm Paul Hottinger.
And who are you?
I'm sitting next to Joey.
That's his qualification.
Yeah.
That's all I needed.
And his doom. That's Cale Anderson.
He's 2 people over from Joey.
Yes. And directly across from Joey is...
Daryl Jors.
Who's bringing up the caboose?
And France is, 1,659 miles away from the United States? I just saw Team America the other day, so it reminded me of that. So the whole thing, like, the proximity to Joey, like, every country in the movie, they listed the proximity.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Joey, before we start,
yeah,
how can our listeners reach us?
Yes! Our listeners can reach us by emailing us, and our email address is show@IamRambling.com.
Please, please, please.
Yeah, you can be honest.
Really, we're trying...
You won't hurt our feelings.
No, say anything, and you may be the first to win a pair of swamp pants.
Yep.
Swamp ass pants.
Yep.
Which, if you are a regular listener, all 2 of you, you know what those are.
Perhaps the sweepstakes is why no one's writing.
Yes. So
I haven't watched them.
They're not used.
It's
we're going to get you a new
we're
pair.
still not on net.
Yeah, we got to figure that out.
And we'll autograph it, too.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that, but we'll not do it.
We need to get on Netflix. That's what...
Next week, we'll be on Netflix.
It won't be like my streaming's stuck. There's just a picture. I can hear it, but...
What the hell, man?
What's wrong with the picture, man?
All right, so for our pre-ramble today, we are going to talk about Daryl's nap and shower. How was it, Daryl?
Oh, it was great.
All right, let's move on. He was a little late.
Yes. Apologies, guys. I don't mean to do that to you.
No, it was fine.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay.
You're rested, you're clean.
They got full of food, so you're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so let's
I'll
talk
do this more
about
often then.
creativity. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man. And
The creativity of the rats running on the wheel.
Rodents are being creative.
Yes.
Is that Daryl Shower?
Joey, that's...
Some kind of shower.
I wouldn't necessarily call that being creative, Joey. That's just...
It depends how you do it. All right.
They create life.
So let's talk about creativity defined. Let's just go around and talk about what we think about creativity. Anybody want to start? All right.
Kill.
Me? Well, I like creativity. Creativity, good.
Oh, wait, we don't have a sponsor. Hold on, I brought a couple.
You did? All right.
Oh.
I hope they're creative.
Okay, who's more creative? We have... Wait, hold on.
BB King. Oh, he's just procreative.
We have the Hulk.
Oh, he fell down.
Hook slap forehead.
Hulk smash.
And I can't find the other one, so we'll do Hulk.
Hulk is
Hulk
creative.
smash creativity.
Hulk smash! What?
He's a doctor.
He's probably, when he's a doctor, he might be creative, but he's Hulk form right now. What's
The Hulk's creative. He finds new ways to throw boulders.
right?
Hey, he's smart when I don't know.
He's all like, I pick up
Hulk.
tank from barrel and use as baseball bat. Arr!
That was in stupid Ang Lee movie.
Yes.
What the hell was that one? Did you see?
Movie make me angry.
Ang Lee. You wouldn't like movie by Ang Lee. Okay.
I know you guys always rag on that, but I actually liked the first one.
You know what? I like the idea behind it, but I hated the style. Like the
three screens going.
The three screens going.
Oh, he
like,
when
and
he
then
tried to make a comic booky.
Right, and when the guy got killed by the missile, and it's like he goes, and he's frozen like this, and
Yeah. I can understand that.
It was a stylistic travesty. How about that?
Oh,
you know what though? It was creative.
Yeah, it was.
Yes,
actually.
it was.
It wasn't good, but it was creative.
Okay, so this is Marvel Universe Hulk Series 4, I think. All right, moving on. Here we go. Creativity. So, what defines creativity?
Well,
You go for it, Paul. This is your baby. Go.
yeah, it's not my baby. I just picked it, but it was my baby, and I gave him up at the fire department.
Wow.
It's a safe zone, right? Well, I see creative. Okay. Well, over the course of the last decade,
I'm so glad we're all jumping it. We all seem to have this problem with definitions. Like, we have no problem talking about things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to defining
we need
it.
to start. So, we've reached a general agreement that creativity involves, how can I say it? The production of novel, useful products. Mumford 2000, page 1.
We can skip
and
definitions.
it can also be
who doesn't know what creativity
producing something
is?
that's both original and worthwhile.
All right, let's
It's a process of taking ideas,
yes,
and developing
we
something.
almost choose the definition.
Yeah, developing something original and useful for society.
Very good. I like that. That was not read either. He made that up.
I think
did.
a big part
That was
of it
very
also
creative.
is
Thank
that
you.
it's finding new relationships in.
I think this is better. What does creativity mean to you? So what? Yeah. What are you talking about?
I think that would be
that's important.
the main part of it is just taking things that you know or new data and putting it into new relationships. So when you spot a relationship no one else spotted, that is a creative thought. And then if that thought can be useful, then that can be summed up as creativity.
Yeah, I kind of think that creativity also has a lot to do with taking things in. And then they're all kind of hanging out in the brain, and then you connect them, like you're saying, relationships in different ways to form something new, and then that comes out of you, not in a gross, disgusting, sexual way.
That's what I do with food.
But no, it's always the same when it comes out of you.
No, it's not,
You
man.
have the most creative movements.
But yeah, I agree. Creativity. It could be something you're physically creating. It could be something with thought.
New thoughts.
New thoughts. It's just. It doesn't have to be. To me, it doesn't have to be something original and novel, like to the world, but just to yourself.
Like, is this
That's a good
podcast original?
Yeah.
It's
I
original.
think it's original.
It's original content, but there are others.
The idea
other
of it is
podcasts,
definitely
Right.
not original.
But we have to be creative to make this because we're just making stuff up as we go. As if you couldn't tell.
And that's the thing is, it's a very creative process because sometimes, like this time, where we have trouble starting it, starting the podcast, we're kind of fumbling around, and then our creative instincts kick in, and we start creating content.
It's like we need to get better
That was amazingly
foreplay.
creative, Caleb.
Yeah, the creativity with us really does grow as our swamp ass grows. They're almost
there must be a
They're
relation.
tied.
Relation with that.
I kind of feel like creativity is also just part of humanity, though. I mean, you almost can't not be creative. Did that work? Can't not be creative, right? Because being just alive and being human is part of being creative. Having emotions and feelings and thoughts. Now, obviously, some people are far more creative than other people, and some people are overly creative. But I think that we're all creative, at least in some way.
Well,
I think kids are born creative, and they often have it taken out of them. But that, of course, as with any trait, there's going to be a variance in the starting point. But
with a lot of things, it's predisposition. A predisposition to being creative, and even more specialized than that, a predisposition to a certain type of creativity. Although, for me, creativity is like when I'm feeling creative, I can actually guide it to whichever, if it's painting or if it's music or if it's physically creating a sculpture or even creating some sort of machine. When I'm in that creative mood, I can kind of like just turn to whichever creative part and just do it, and it'll become creative there.
So it's like a frame of mind.
Yeah, exactly. For me.
Yeah.
Although I know some people have specialized creativity where they're amazingly creative as a painter, but they could not sculpt to save their lives, or they couldn't do some other creative process like writing. Some people who are painters just can't even string sentences together at all, and look at people who can and say, oh my God, that's a genius. And I think that's where that comes from, is when you find somebody else who's as creative in another area that you're not, you look at them and say, well, they've got to be some special person. They've got to be a genius because I can't do that.
Well, let's take a look at where some of the examples of creativity are.
Let's go, Paul.
What?
Go ahead, Paul.
I cut him off. And
Dude, go, Paul.
I don't even remember what I was going to say.
All right, let's move on.
Sorry.
It wasn't very creative. It's okay.
All right.
It'll come back.
All right. So, some examples of creativity, I think, or what's considered creativity is obviously art is probably, if we were playing Family Feud, number one answer on the board. Bing, bing. Art. We end up Bing. It doesn't even.
Yeah.
It doesn't go Bing. Right. It goes like dong. What else? Music.
Music and
writing.
Writing, of course.
Everything.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Pretty much anything can be creative.
It depends on the culture too. It's like us here may value something creative because we're more artsy, or like if we're in San Francisco, more of the arts and crafts movement and stuff. Or if you're, I don't know, into cars, you're like that's in that neighborhood or something. It's all about cars and stuff, and that's what's more creative is you know.
Well, maybe it would be
muscle cars and stuff.
Maybe it would be more beneficial to look at what's not creative, since almost anything can be creative. What is something that's not creative?
Hollywood.
Yeah, but what do you mean by that?
Kidding. Well, I mean, obviously, to make it
if it's nothing new,
creative, but
especially.
But it's creative to some people.
Pluto
Nash was a hit for some people.
It wasn't that bad of a movie, actually.
See?
But
I know.
Well, no, it's just
we all watched Catwoman like 3 weeks ago.
Easy to say something cynical like Hollywood's not creative, even though it is. Just because there are so many stolen and borrowed ideas. But I mean, really, that's a lot of what creativity is you take an existing something and re-synthesize it into something new.
Like a mashup.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's kind of important, is what we consider creative. Creative. I don't know why I separated it like that. Creative. Because obviously Pluto Nash is very creative, but not everyone's going to think so. So a lot of it's subjective. Is there anything we can say that is just definitely not creative? And I guess it would be rote something, calculating, doing the same thing, memorization, like just flat.
Memorizing the Gettysburg Address isn't very creative.
Basic mathematics.
No variance, maybe, is kind of what it is. When you're just doing basic, when you're not making relationships and connecting things together, I guess that's really the essence of creativity, is when you're able to take different things, put them together, make something new. That is interesting. You know, if you just take a whole bunch of stuff and just throw it on the wall and go, "Ooh, look what I did!"
Well, it's almost like there has to be a new output at the end.
Yeah,
it's not just regurgitation of something.
Yeah,
it's at the end, whatever your end product is. It's different from the previous version or whatever similar to it.
But I think it needs to fit into a certain predefined category. And when I say predefined, I don't necessarily mean something that we make, something that's been made through us. And we talked about this in story. You know, you have to follow kind of a certain pathway in a story. And it's not because we made it that it has to be that way. It's just kind of how the human brain works. You know, there's certain, what are they called? Archetypes that you follow. And if you try to go outside of those, that's almost being overly creative, too creative, and it's not interesting. And when we did story, we gave the example of James Joyce, who wrote Ulysses, which is arguably very creative, but it's a piece of crap. Because it's just, oh my God, it's train of thought, and it's just horrible.
Well, people feel that way about Picasso, too.
Exactly, and that's another good example, is that you look at something like Picasso, and I look at it and look, that's pretty weird.
Who's the guy that threw the paint at the...
Yeah. Well, any modern art,
you designed our logo.
That's it. You could just throw things together and just say, well, that's creative, but there has to be some sort of structure undermining something to make it creative. There's a point where you're getting too much, you're going too far, and it's not creative. You're just throwing things together to be different. And I think people make that mistake, dude.
Hulk head backwards.
That was a creative thing there.
Head backwards Hulk. No one did that before.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody's done that.
So what's the creative process then? I mean, what do we do to become creative?
I think
that was a very good
approach things with
I was thinking, but I didn't have anything to say.
No. Both. Back this up if you guys are listening. Both Kale and Daryl did a breathe in that was almost. It was like breathe.
Yeah.
It was very synchronous. Whatever.
Synchronous.
I think. I mean. Logic plays a part in creativity because it helps rein you in, because you have to start distinguishing between ideas that, like you say, are just kind of random and not useful, and ideas that are going to get you someplace.
Like a random rambling?
Could be like that. But aside from the rational part, I just think that approaching things with a childlike wonder, I think that we get taught by our parents and everyone else, like, stop being such a kid, you're being silly, but when we get our toys for the first time and we're playing with things, we just have this open sense of, we're telling ourselves a story with these little props we have, and we just make up the craziest little scenarios and things that I think in our adult lives we tend to start forgetting.
Well, I think I kind of agree with it, but I kind of want to counter that, because I find creativity to be very logical in the sense that it's very, very much solving problems or problem solving. I mean, when you're trying to figure out something and how to best go about that. And I do see kids as being creative, but almost in a more distracted, unconnected creativity,
right? Which
is a good place to start from. But then it's just as an example for me. I mean, when I was and as a teacher, I see this with a lot of kids. A lot of being a kid is getting something new. And with my toys, a lot of the times that was it. It was new, it was great, I played with it for a little bit, and then I kind of forgot about it. It really wasn't until my brain started becoming more rational and forming into something more solid in my teenage years that playing with my toys, and I know most kids stop at that point, but for me became an epic where I had these long stories, because no longer were they disconnected. I had these huge stories I would tell with toys. And that didn't happen when I was little. When I was little, it was like, play a little bit, and I'm bored, okay, I'm done.
It was like mini adventures as a smaller child.
Yeah, it lacked coercion. No, that would be the
cohesion.
Wrong. Cohesion. Coercion would be a bad thing to have with children.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure. Cohesion, and like you wouldn't want to get a kid and write a book based on their stories, but they'd be fun to sit down and listen to.
I don't think we're necessarily on different pages here, but I agree that there's the rational aspect of it. I'm just saying that I think that as adults we become less and less likely to think out of the box,
right?
Because we realize that we need to be rational in our approach to creativity, but that also sometimes paints our limitations.
Excellent.
I think too, as adults, it's almost like to be creative. Like if I watch Logan, and he's 4, and I watch him play with his toys, and he's on this, I don't know what they're doing, but big adventure, werewolf going over here, and He-Man doing this and whatever, and it's just going at it. And if I try to do that now, it's just not the same. It's almost like now to be that creative, to have that mindset, or to make something that creative. It's like there has to be a reason for it, for me to be that creative. It's not just a random act of grabbing some toys and just playing with something. It's like I have to have a reason to create something, whether it be to develop a story to make money, or publish a book, or whatever. But at the end game, the product, it's not just a random act of creativeness.
Or
creativity.
That's a word we're going to say a lot. Right?
Okay.
We're going to have to do a supercut of this,
Okay.
where it's like creativity.
Yeah.
How many different ways can we say that?
It's like the Microsoft TV.
Exactly.
TV,
right.
television, TV.
Bitch box.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, so
TV bitch box.
Oh,
so
I've heard of Birchbox. That's that like makeup thing they send you every month.
Okay,
I'm not a subscriber. But
What?
talking about kids with creativity and getting older. Obviously, the way the brain works is it's forming during the young years before puberty, and and it's basically learning. So it's at a state where it's learning and it's repeating. That's how it learns. So it's not necessarily connecting. The same way as we become adolescents, our brain becomes more rational, and it is made not for learning anymore, but for thinking. And so things are more connected. So
Yeah, that reminds me of when Linda has talked about in her classroom. She teaches third grade, and that the kids, when she has them read, she tells them to picture what they're reading in their minds, because that's not a normal thing that kids automatically do.
Yeah.
And that's a creative thing that becomes very helpful if you're going to become a good reader. You know, or the desire to read becomes very important to you, because you start seeing it in your head as you're reading it.
And I think what happens a lot, and I don't think it's a bad thing that we start to lose the creativity we had as a child, in the sense that we go to a place where we need to think more, and so that does mean that we stay on connections, which I think is necessary, that we have to stay on certain connections so that we do certain things. And that does allow us to lose things. But it also, like you were saying, Daryl, doesn't allow us to see outside the box or see simple things that children would see that we wouldn't. Now, I've got a picture I just drew, and you can see this on the show notes, so if you want to click on it where it says the bus, take a look at it. If you guys saw this was on an episode of Mind Games, which was on Discovery. So, I'm going to show you a picture of a bus, okay? Which way is the bus going? Okay, is it going to the left or is it going to the right?
To the right.
Okay, what do you think?
Trick question.
Yeah, it's a trick question.
It's not a trick
because
question.
I can see it going either way.
Exactly, most adults do. What about you?
Right.
But it's more curvy.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of preference about which way it's going.
Okay,
Maybe
exactly.
Maybe
And I was
coming at me.
I was the same way. Most kids, 75 to 80% of kids, will tell you that the bus is going to the left.
That's bull, man. It's going to the right.
Because, obviously, the door is on the other side. Something adults wouldn't have thought of, because maybe they don't think in that respect, or they're not around buses or whatever.
Oh, it's a U.S. bus. I thought it was in London.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
Bangladesh.
But that's just it. When you're saying thinking outside the box, we are looking for a very logical, very reasonable explanation that's got to be there, and that's how our brain works. Where a kid is just going to go for the simple, well, the door's not there.
So you think as we learn like more logic and we learn how to do more critical thinking, that's where the creativity could be lost?
I think it could be lost, but it doesn't necessarily have to be lost. I think it's a different type of creativity. Because like I said, I think a kid's creativity, in that brainstorm, you always got to brainstorm at the beginning of creativity, and I think that's where kids really have something. Is that they can go from this idea to that idea to this idea, and they're just all over the place and come up with some amazing thoughts. Where we are always on kind of a track, which is necessary to take those ideas and make them into anything.
Well, that's
why you don't have kids writing books.
Right. Well, the key is to, as you teach and give people skills that help them be more creative later. And that's the thing, is to teach them all these skills before, without destroying their creativity. And that's something that becomes a problem.
Maybe part of what I think Joey is getting on here is that when you're younger and you have less knowledge of the world, you're just trying to accumulate as much data as possible so that you can make the associations that form the relationships of the world around you. Later on in life, after you feel like you have a pretty certain grasp of your surroundings, then you will stay within certain confines of what you realize you still don't know and try to make relationships there. And it's like there are most movies that are about like a fish out of water story, whether it be Tarzan or Short Circuit or whatever. That's usually kind of how someone is portrayed when they have the culture shock of being introduced to the modern world. Mm-hmm. So Tarzan is going around feeling up objects that are in the room and just
filling up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or like think about Short Circuit, like he's like, must learn, and he goes over to a book and reads the whole thing real fast.
So let me get this straight. We got feeling up and Short Circuit, so we're back to sex with robots again.
That's always bad.
That's always a good
Robots.
place I like to be.
And
That's
Tarzan.
next week's topic.
Should be.
Oh.
But that's usually how that's portrayed, and I think that's fairly accurate. If if any of us were just thrown into some completely different culture and we had no clue what was going on, we would be like a child to that people in that culture. Yeah. The adults would be looking at us and laughing to themselves, going, oh, "Look at that idiot."
Well, look at it, Army of Darkness. When he goes back in time and stuff, he thinks he's much more superior because he's from the future.
Right.
And I think that's part of it, but I think there's a little.
And that's culture shock still.
Yeah. Oh no, totally.
But I think there's more to it than that, because a child's brain is made for learning. It is actually
Plastic.
Not that's not what I'm trying to say, but you're on the right track.
Plasticity?
No, I mean
Absorbing.
it's
a sponge.
Stop it!
4 letters.
No, I can't think when you're talking.
Can I give you another countdown? 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to Rambling.
Oh, we're starting over. Okay. No,
that happened last week.
Well, okay. What was I saying?
I don't know. About plastic brains.
Okay, when you're a kid's brain is made for learning. It brings things in so they can repeat it and do the same thing over and over again. It's for acquiring knowledge and, like you were saying, finding a place for it. It's all about bringing the knowledge in. It's structured that way. But as you go through puberty, the brain does solidify more and become made for thinking. So it's got more logical...
critical thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's just it. That's why you can't have an argument with a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old and you're going to win.
I'm not sure
I won one the other
is
day.
a real cutoff there. Like, I think it's just a
It goes
progression
from
of
puberty.
growing up.
It's puberty to about 25, I think, is about where you get to the point where your brain is. That's why they do the whole, what is it, the car insurance thing at 25? Because at that point, you've got most everything in the logical pattern and you're not going to, like, be, woo!
Your brain's no longer mush.
Yeah, you're not drunk.
Yeah.
So when we, no, I don't know what I was saying. I was going some more of that. And,
well, creative people, I mean, are they born with it, or do you think?
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about that. So does creativity, and it does come off of this, because obviously we're talking about a sort of creativity that comes from just being a child, and you just are learning everything. Everything's new to you. It's exciting. Because even what you said, Daryl, if you're in a new culture, you may not find it new and exciting and then you want to repeat it. You might be like, get me the hell out of here, because your brain isn't ready for that anymore. But for a kid, it's always like, ooh, look. I was looking at your kid last week.
Teaching an old dog new tricks kind of thing.
I was looking at Paul's kid last week, the new one, and it's just, this kid was blinking.
He's
just like staring.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, are you going to blink?
Imagine falling asleep on the recliner and waking up to the kids staring at you at 3 in the morning.
Hey, blinking.
What are you doing?
Did you just say, hey, blinking? But yeah, so obviously some form of creativity comes with us. It's part of being human. But obviously also, I'm saying obviously a lot.
Yeah. Obviously.
You're all idiots out there.
Duh.
Creativity is taught.
We knew you felt that way all along.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think
it's the way I am. It's my...
I think creativity can be taught, but there is a certain level of skill that people have that you can't teach that. They just have it. Like, I could go to take an art class, but I'm not gonna get to the point, I believe, where I can draw like, Jim Lee or whatever on comics and stuff. There is a certain skill.
I think it's a predisposition. Because as we talked about in previous episodes, that the 10,000 hour rule, if you invest 10,000 hours of guided practice, and that's the key, guided practice, very specific learning how to do things, that after 10,000 hours, you'll be able to do that and I believe that you can do that with creativity also, is as you try to be creative and you spend more and more time trying to be creative, I think once you reach your 10,000 hours, then, I don't know, like I said, maybe I'm being conceited here, but I think I've reached that 10,000 hour creativity point where I can just use my creativity in any direction I want. And it will flow there.
I've done that with Super Mario Brothers.
Does it take 10,000 hours of conceit to reach that point of conceit?
I think as part of it. I think the conceit is part of it. Because you have to have this unrealistic
and it's not
view of yourself.
Yeah, but it's not
that
conceit.
You're good enough to do all that.
It's not conceit. It's confidence.
And you need
confidence,
the support as well. You know, we talked about.
I guess it's confidence if you actually can do it.
True. You need to have the support. So it can be taught, but if you're a child, your parents have to give you the opportunity to flourish in that creativity or skill or whatever you have. So as we were talking earlier, I don't know if I want to get into the TED topic now, but if someone like Logan is very artistic and stuff, well, if I put him in all these art classes and stuff, then his creativity, his skill level will flourish. Mm-hmm. Well, if I can't afford it, or we're not living around a school that can do it, it may be hindered to either a future date, or it may just never ever get a chance to bloom.
It depends on how big his predisposition for it is. Because especially with like drawing and that type of art, my brother basically came out of the womb being able to draw amazing, and that predisposition he had was fostered a little bit, but it didn't bloom into a big career and make him a famous artist because he didn't continue to pursue it.
But I think even if you're born with a certain amount of skill, Jim Lee didn't draw like we're used to seeing Jim Lee draw right out of the womb, as you might say. I think that skill was fostered, and to get to the 10,000 hours, you usually don't do that unless something excites you, or you wouldn't do that in your own guided way outside of your curriculum.
So
unless you're forced to do it.
So the people with the predisposition are the ones who do go for the 10,000 hours because they start off being good enough
or
that they like it.
Yeah,
to develop.
Well, I still think they need an opportunity to do it as well.
You can be passionate about something you're not even that good at the beginning, but you become good at it. So
well, you might have a passion for something you really suck at. I mean, it's possible.
Right.
Actually, I think it's more than possible. Podcasting, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, a little experiment for everybody at home. If you're not a very good artist, this is something we tried out in my class. I got from another teacher. Get a picture. You can any other picture that's slightly complicated, and then get two pieces of blank paper. And what I want you to do is turn the picture upside down, especially if it. Well, actually, make sure it's a picture of a face, because that's how we did this, and it might only work with face. I don't know. Turn the picture upside down.
From the 18?
No, shut up, dude. I'm going to forget what I'm saying again. Okay, turn the picture upside down.
Or some chill.
And draw the picture of the face. Upside down is fine, whichever works for you, but draw it. And then on the other piece of paper, turn the face right side up, and then try to draw it. And this happened for me. I was much better at drawing it when the face was upside down. I was much more detail-oriented. I could look at the parts and transfer them over easier. When I turned it right side up, I think it had something to do with because I wasn't looking at the bits and pieces. I was looking at an entire face.
Right.
I couldn't, I didn't want to draw it because I couldn't figure out where things went. So, very interesting. I'll put my two pictures and what they were on show notes.
So it's a matter of...
It's left brain, right brain.
You have, because when you see the face right side up, you see structure.
Right.
But the other way around, you just see a series of lines.
Right, and details that I could draw, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. So, creativity, I think we can all say, is both, partially... I think we're almost talking about two different parts of creativity here. We're talking about what comes kind of raw, basic creativity that comes with us as a child, kind of that has no course or... what do you call
less
it?
Focus.
Yeah, right. No focus.
You haven't learned enough
focus.
to have
right.
focus
and then,
most of the time.
And then you get to a point where when creativity is focused, it can produce something that can be amazing. And I think that we need to look at how when you bring things in, that's the input, it gets mixed up inside of you, and if you have the focus, you can put it out to become something interesting. But I guess it depends on...
Our computer is creative.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
the ones who programmed it.
Yeah,
and I think in the future when we get close to the singularity, you won't be able to tell the difference between when a computer is being creative. If you think it's creative, it's not necessarily because
it just dawned on me when you're talking about that model, that's exactly what computers are. It's, input, central processing, output. So as humans, we obviously operate different than the standard computer model, but we kind of do the same kind of thing. I think that's why computers are important to our society, because they work in a slightly human fashion.
You know what? I think that's actually a really good point, because computers are almost a simplified version of creativity. They need us to guide them right now. And I think we'll get to a point eventually where they won't need us to guide them, and then we'll be indistinguishable, our creativity from a computer's creativity.
Well, rather than guide, they're programmed. And I think
that's what I mean by
that's
guide,
part of what learning is for humans too. Is that
Yeah.
we need to program the circuitry in our heads to, find a particular output from what we bring in.
I think the computer model, the input output, we're very similar with that. But at the end, as humans, we have imagination, we have passion. So where computers I don't think can do it right now is we can think outside the box. See.
By the way, as a
how
teacher,
we might get into the future.
You get so bored of that phrase.
Outside the box?
Outside the box. You hear it all the time. Every professional development. We need to think outside
Think
the
beyond
box.
the bun.
Yeah.
By the way, there is
always like
where's the box?
Okay, by the
you
way,
want to get in the box.
there is a...
Yeah.
Yes, you do. There. If you're thinking inside the box, you're already there.
Yeah.
There's actually a game that brought that phrase into being. It's a lot, or not even a game. I don't know what to call it. It's a logic game with points and the lines. Yeah, which
Sudoku?
It's like 9 dots.
9 dots. Yeah.
And the
4
goal
lines,
is
right?
to connect them with 4 connected lines,
Yeah.
right? And so most people,
They try
with
to.
the dots there, you might draw a few lines, and you find out you need 5 lines to do it, right? But if you extend the lines outside of the box of dots, you can now travel further out, and your lines will connect more dots as you go. So.
And hence the very,
outside
very,
the box.
very popular phrase.
What's the matter with the
Cliche.
box?
Because your mind draws like a mental box around the 9 dots, and I used this I used that same thing in a teacher development course I was in. Share it with all the class, and even some of the teachers that were in the class, they're like early teachers being trained. They're just like, but that's not fair. You didn't tell us that we could draw the line outside of the dots. I'm like, look, just 4 lines that connect them all. It fits on the paper.
Can't do it.
If it fits on the paper, you're like, yeah, but they were all like mad that they didn't
Dude,
get it.
it's not fair. It sounds like
Tell
my
them
kids.
rules.
Dude,
Right,
it's not
exactly.
fair.
It was just funny to see, like adult
That's my
teachers
kids.
saying that.
Yes.
Minus the dude part. Wow.
So I guess what this leads on to, because there's not really any segue to this, is just
What's next?
how does
What's under
culture
C?
influence our creativity?
That definitely has a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
I
for
think.
one, there's some governments that will not let you
That's a good
stifle
point.
creativity.
That will not let you stifle creativity.
No, it will stifle creativity. It won't let you do creative stuff. Some also may be like traditionalists, where being creative.
Creative.
Yeah,
Thinking,
a lot
I don't
of-
say
a lot
thinking
of-
outside the box, but doing things differently is frowned upon.
Yeah.
Ken Robinson states that in Western culture that the school system was designed to prepare us for the industrial age, and so we needed people good at math, good with literacy, to go out there and operate machines and do that kind of thing. So he said that emerging from the industrial age, we need to rethink what our priorities are and maybe put more of an emphasis on creativity than just telling people that math and English skills are the be-all, end-all of our education.
Well, I have to disagree with that from an elementary point of view. Possibly for secondary school, it'd be different. Well, maybe I shouldn't say from an elementary point of view. At least a lower grades, like first, second, third, maybe into fourth. You need to get kids reading. I mean, that's the most important thing, obviously, and doing basic math. I think that has to preclude everything, because if you can't read, you can't read a book on art to learn how to become a better artist. If you can't do math, you're not going to be able to go out into the real world. And I'm saying this because I deal every day with 4th, 5th graders and older that can't read and can't do math. So I can't teach them art. I can't teach them all these other things at their level because I can only teach them like kindergarten art. Simple stuff that you can do without getting more complicated because they just don't understand it. If they don't understand the basics of literature and problem solving, critical thinking, then you can't really have them following directions very well. So in that sense, I think literacy and math are super important at the primary levels. As you start to go further, though, I think, there's probably a lot of changes that can be made.
I guess the big argument that keeps happening throughout different generations is that those things you say are very important and they need to be done. But how can we do them without beating out the creativity of the kids in the process? Because that's a critical time. I remember in that time that I used to draw stuff all the time around that age. And, a lot of underwater scenes with scuba divers and all sorts of stuff. It was very creative. It wasn't very good. They were just barely above stick figures. But I really enjoyed doing it. But I remember being criticized for how bad it was. And that made me feel like, oh, I can't be an artist. I can't draw things. And so therefore, I shouldn't try. And it took me until I was, past 30 to where I found out I can be an artist. Maybe I'm not a fine artist where I'm drawing particularly fine things, but I have the ability to be an artist in many ways. And I can even improve that aspect of me where I can be a better fine artist too.
And I think the educational system has changed a lot, where you're not going to find teachers and adults saying that to students anymore. You're not going to.
Well, that was a long time ago.
You're not going to see teachers. They might
hitting you with a stick.
But that being said,
they might. Ruler.
Yeah. They will come up to you, as I do, and say, "We're not drawing. This is not an art class. Right. We need to be doing this." Now, all that also being said, I have a student in my class I've talked about before, Princess, she's a 3rd grader, and she's incredibly artistic. I mean, incredibly, fantastically. She doesn't look at anything, she just draws. And she does an amazing job. And I give her as much time as possible to work on that. However, at the same time, it's just one of those things where I need to get her reading. She's not.
You don't have that. They're taking more and more time out of the school day for you to teach that reading. So how are you supposed to include art and music and stuff when they're adding breakfast in the morning and second chance lunch and third snack?
I think that's something we might want to talk about next week. Hint, hint. Okay. On what the accomplishment week. Anyway, so moving on. How does that came out of culture for some way. We didn't really get into culture.
Because I started talking about how Western culture gears toward the industrial training.
Yeah. You know what?
Here's the Nazis. Training. They burn books because they don't want their people to read and to get.
Do I have to start instituting Godwin's Law over here?
About Nazis.
Yeah, I don't know. I just started feeling weird every time we bring up Hitler or Nazis.
All right, well, I've got it.
Did he say that? Wait, did you say the Gungan's Law?
No,
Gungan's Law. Misa doesn't want to do that.
It's not like we're talking about a J.C.
I have something
because in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that blonde girl shedded a tear.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you're saying that like fascist regimes burn books, and they don't want certain knowledge to be put out.
I think anybody in power eventually starts burning books that they don't agree with. Whether it could be books that other ones were saying, "Oh, we have to keep these," and another culture just burns those books.
Here's why I think the internet is so valuable for culturally supporting free thinking, is that I think that if you want to exert control on somebody, then there's such a thing as dangerous thoughts. Mm-hmm. If you are interested in people's liberty and freedom, then thoughts aren't so dangerous anymore. So it makes you think about, we have a free marketplace of exchange of ideas on the internet, and I think that it really does help.
And it's easier for people to express their feelings on there and to communicate with each other.
And I think,
and totally off topic.
Yes, I know.
An example.
And be creative with each other.
Oh, there we go.
Overthrow tyranny.
There we go.
Kale has an example. Kale, example. Go.
The example I have is the Japanese people.
Stupid example. Let's move on. No, no, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
Just kidding. Go.
And
You're like his bad teachers that told him he's not any good at anything.
Yeah, where's my knife?
I'm never going to talk about Japanese people again. I'll be 70 before I can talk about a Japanese.
But I was a rebellious youth, and anyway.
All right, tell us about the
Japanese people in the 50s were thought of. They were educated only to, the basics of math and science, all that kind of thing, non-creative. And so they reproduced our cars, they reproduced our electronics, and it wasn't until they started interacting with the rest of the world and realizing that the creativity is what they really needed, that Japanese people started to become more creative.
And then anime was born.
And what?
Anime was
In a way,
born.
Yeah, anime. There
if
you
you look at it at the evolution of a brain, it's kind of the same way. The Japanese people started to copy us. Yeah. And that's what they did, and they didn't do very good. But when connections started to be made, and it made sense to them, then they started making... What do you mean, Doc? All the good stuff comes from Japan.
See, that's what I was trying to say.
So Back to Future 3, exactly.
So he said it better than I
Here we go. Oh, no wonder this thing broke. Damn thing's made in Japan. What are you talking about, Doc? All the best stuff comes from Japan. Fascinating.
Heavy. Oh, wait.
All right.
So, just to make sure that this doesn't come off as, some sort of like anti-Japanese kind of thing, why is it that you're citing that they were educated without creativity? So
I'm going to start calling you politically correct, Daryl. You're always protecting us, which is good.
It was their culture at the time that they were, especially the Oriental culture tends to tell people to be groups instead of individuals.
Now, when you're saying Oriental, you really mean Asian, and you're not really...
Oriental's a rug, dude.
Oh, my God.
Yes. We don't give a crap. Oriental.
I say Oriental because I didn't want to include India in that. So... Because that's Asian.
Yeah.
But people are going to...
As Aziz says...
Dude,
in fact, half of Russia's Asia. Also.
We need to kowtow to all of
Asia
our
was
listeners.
A great rock group, man. They were awesome. Anyway, that was my point, is that they were more regimented to be a group and to follow the group and to do
it wasn't because of post-World War II, the education system was reworked?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't.
All right.
It wasn't.
Interesting.
Well, here's... Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm 100% behind that opinion, but...
I'm just saying there is some statistics to support that view. That's all I'm saying.
I'm uninformed on that, so I'll withhold comment.
Yeah, you better.
That's right.
Okay, moving on to Paul.
I got nothing.
Okay, because I thought you were going to say something.
No. Let's go. I was going to say something about Afghanistan, but I don't want to offend our Afghanistani public.
Okay.
Our potential Afghans.
Well, okay. I guess you can talk smack about the this
Taliban.
Yeah, the Taliban. Thank you. They're fair game.
Hey, when this becomes a huge podcast in 30, 40 years, maybe the Taliban will be big stuff again.
Can I talk about Whitey?
Hey, careful. Maybe we're the minority by that point.
What are you talking about? We're a minority already.
Yeah, that's right.
Anywho, we better move on before we get the NCAA
politically incorrect.
Hook not transformed.
Dude, you beheaded my Hulk. What are you doing? You cut off his arm off?
Yeah, man. With all this talk,
Hulk go into rage and turn into Fist Hook.
Fist Hook? What?
Fist Hulk.
Fist Hulk.
Oh, that sounds like a position.
We need to take a picture of this.
Hulk should not be fisting. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, dude. Could you imagine he's fisting and then gets enraged and it grows?
It's like Superman having orgasms. It's just not a good thing.
Yeah.
Faster than
what are we at? 48. You guys are early for off the rails. I'm not ready for it.
Sorry, I was just being creative. I I wanted to figure out if Hulk's fist would plug into his neck, and it does.
Daryl, that was very creative.
Thank you, sir.
That was very creative.
That was a good mashup.
Yeah.
Please see
the shrink.
Please see the show notes picture. Yeah.
You're talking to the audience. All right. Thought you were going to give me some...
No, you're beyond gone.
All right.
Cool. So creativity obviously is influenced by culture, but let's talk about how it connects and influences each of us. I mean, I can write a story that if it's good and it hits the right areas, the right nodes, it's going to be something that thousands, millions of people can read and enjoy. Why is that? Why is it that creativity is able to connect us on so many different levels? And that's not just creativity. When something becomes popular, music,
Star Wars, Star Trek, it gets a fandom.
Well, it's definitely influenced because if something becomes more popular, more people start accessing it, and that it creates a... I don't know. I lost my thought.
Well, no, but I see where you're going with that. More people see it, listen to it, and therefore becomes something that they get used to, and
then half of them become they write fan fiction.
Yeah,
so they become part of the creative process. They're taking in somebody else's creative work and discussing it and imagining what it could be outside that story. So let's say you write this great story, we all read it, and then we start thinking about what this character,
right, and it's part of the process.
Like before Tolkien, there really wasn't any high fantasy, and he created this new genre kind of high fantasy.
But I think that what I'm coming to is that you can have, there's hundreds of people, thousands, who try to write stories and books. And
every day.
Yeah, and not all of them are published, and not all of them become popular. And sometimes they're good and they don't. So obviously part of them, don't get the right publicity or whatever. But on the other hand, there's those who do maybe get the right publicity, but their stuff just stinks. I mean, it's not something you'd want to read or listen to. So that's, I think, a case of creativity without the proper direction. Yeah. We all have some sort of way we want to see things. And if you don't kind of connect to that part of our brain, then you're not going to be able to connect. But at the same time, you can't copy someone. Because if you do, then,
plagiarism.
It's plagiarism, yeah. And
well, when people start being creative, they usually start by emulating or copying people.
Yeah.
They copy to begin with, then they emulate, which is they kind of go a little farther, and then they become truly creative on their own afterward.
That's a good point. And you get copying as learning, so that's basically what they're doing. They're learning it first, and then they become their own thing. And maybe they learn from two different things and put two different things together that nobody else did, which makes something brand new, which, like you said, Paul, is part of the cycle. Somebody else sees their brand new thing and comes up with something else. It goes on forever. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as you were saying about how you have thousands of people writing and not getting their books out there and stuff, it goes into like what blocks creativity is other people.
Yes.
You do need to have if you're publishing a book, you need to have the opportunity from the publisher. You need money to...
Daryl, stop playing with my Hulk!
Twit playing with his green monster. Purple monster.
Ding ding.
Purple
Green Man.
Joey's
Purple
Rage
pants.
Monster.
But if you don't have the money or
I'm
the
going to
means...
call it that from now on. I'm going to go home and tell Kim, hey Kim, want to play with my Rage Monster? And then I'm going to pull out the Hulk.
That's creative.
Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
Well, how many times, do you have a band that is playing, like, the whiskey and is trying to get out their indie album and stuff, and then they get a random CD or whatever into a big record company. They got to sell out just to get their name out there. Well, it's that where then now they have to go with the rules of that big record company. That can stifle their creativity. It's blocking their creativity. But you need to have them in order to get out there.
Playing the creative game is sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's skill, but when you think about it, I mean, you have to go at least partially on this.
Who's doing laundry?
Is that a code
That's
word?
Nick
for
Knack.
Oh,
Nick Knack's running on the wheel.
that
squeaking.
sounds like a code word. Hey, you want Nick Knack to run on the wheel tonight?
A safe word.
Who's doing the
safe
laundry?
Word, Nick Knack.
Nick Knack.
Oh no.
Everybody
Nick Knack
needs
and his
a
green
good-
monster.
There you go.
So, oh crap, I forgot.
Well, I got one.
53.
Another thing that blocks creativity is the fear of being wrong.
Yeah.
We have our kids.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Once again, Logan drawing something. I'll be in his preschool class, and they're all right. It's draw time, and they're just drawing whatever. I don't go up to him and I say, what is that? I say, oh, this is very cool. Tell me about it. And I have him to oh, it's a butterfly. I'm like, oh yeah, very nice, good job. I see that. Well, 20 years later, if he draws the same picture and goes, hey, look, Paul, it's a butterfly. I'm like, no, it's not. And so I could be totally being creative, and I'm like, it's a butterfly, and you're like, no, it's not, and that can stifle my creativity.
No, it's not Picasso.
And and then I feel stupid, and I don't want to be wrong in front of other people.
Yeah, but
being wrong.
Yeah, but you've got it. That's just it. You've got to balance that line though, because if you do grow up and he doesn't get any better, and you're always saying, "Oh, that's very good. That's very good," and then he goes to an art show, going, "Look at my butterfly," and they go,
"You'd sell it for $5 million."
Yeah, that's why you want to encourage your children, but you got to give them some sort of reality check.
Yeah, exactly, and I think you need to do both because that's what we're talking about. There's the raw creativity you get as a child which we all need. That's where we start our creative inspiration, I guess, comes from, but then it needs to be focused and honed into something that is useful or desired that you can output from yourself. And if you don't follow something like that, it may be something you just make that's creative maybe only to you and not to anyone else. If you really want creativity to be creativity, it has to be shared.
In instructing adults, I came across the notion that I felt like many of them were constrained on their creativity and ideas, like they were afraid to share any ideas that they had. And I think that Paul hit upon that. It's just this fear of being wrong. We're taught our entire lives that being incorrect is wrong. We're tested where you get marked down for every time you're wrong. You execute something, you're told you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. And that's the thing. Like, everyone becomes deathly afraid by the time they're adults of being wrong. And sometimes I was dealing with people who are learning computers for the first time. And I think that fear comes with them. They don't experiment with the computer the way that we did when we were younger, because they've been told you do something wrong and then the computer's broken, right?
Yeah.
And they're afraid that they're just going to mess something up. And it's like, I just try to encourage people. I say, look, the computer warns you if you're going to do something drastic like format the hard drive. Or you're going to, if you forget to save your work, you might just lose what you worked on over the last hour. But if you ensure that you save it, you'll be fine. So here's your blank canvas. Open up Word or whatever program you're trying to learn and poke around all the buttons and find out what they do.
Yeah, it's the only way to do that. We build computers, and I build computers for family and they think it's amazing. And I'm like, well, how'd you fix that? Or how'd you do that? Right. Well, I was able to fix your computer because I broke 5 other ones.
Yeah.
And it took me 5 hours to fix this one, but now I know how to do it.
Mistakes are only a problem if you don't learn from them.
Yeah. I'd like to extend off of that and the idea that being afraid to be wrong is not necessarily something that's drilled into you by people criticizing you. I can see that it is for some people, but I think it is actually something that's very natural. And it actually comes from a lack of understanding the process of learning. And I say this because I see it with a lot of the kids in my class, especially when we do anything artistic. Now, what happens is I give them what they have to do, an artistic challenge. And sometimes it may be kind of difficult. Like when we did that copying the face thing. These kids freaking stressed out like crazy because they wanted to draw a picture exactly like the face they saw, which was a photograph of somebody, which was not the idea. What happens with these kids a lot is they are so afraid to be wrong because they see that they think in their head that I should be able to draw this picture just as it is, like an artist, even though I haven't learned it. And that's a problem with the fact that they don't understand that in order to learn, they have to work at it. And so it's a deficiency in their idea of how education works, which is a big problem with a lot of the kids in the area I work in, the inner city, is they are behind in learning, and then they see other people going past them in learning, and they think I should be where they are, but I'm not getting it, and they don't understand, well, I'm not working hard enough to get it. And so they are afraid of being wrong, so they don't try. It's not that anyone's ever come up to them and said, oh, that's bad, you're wrong. Well, that might happen to some of them. For the most part, it's just the fact that they think they should be able to get it easily, and they don't. There's a deficiency there.
I think where I make the distinction, though, is I'm not talking about just criticism, but I just think it's a systemic thing. The whole school system is based on good test scores, for example. Well, how do you get bad test scores? By being wrong on all your answers, right? So we just have a system that props up success by being correct all the time.
Yeah, you know what?
As if the only successful people in the world are the ones who are correct all the time.
Well, it's just like in the business world. You don't want to... You can do so many right things. Right. And it's like you get praised or whatever. You do one thing wrong, that's what... Your manager may be harping just on that and just be dwelling on that for like forever.
Right. And there is a pretty bad dichotomy or view of testing, because testing is something that needs to be done in school because you need to know the progress of your teaching so that you'll know what to teach.
Yeah, you need some sort of assessment.
But the problem is the way we grew up with testing and the way kids are doing testing today is not what it should be. Testing needs to be looked at as a measurement of your ability at that time. Instead of just a score, it's what you know. Right. And I try to show this to the kids all the time, but it's very difficult to say, you know, they get scared. Testing, it's not a bad thing. I just need to know what you know so that the kids need to know that it's a measurement. That's all it is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's a measurement.
I think these days there's more of an emphasis on it being assessment rather than just being...
And I think
the problem is they start teaching teachers by necessity because of the way they're being forced. They start teaching to the test. Right before the test happens, you teach the test.
Because you want the bigger test scores because then your school will get more money.
And that's not what the point of a test is.
Right. But you can understand why they do that.
Right. And we should talk about that next week because I know.
You know what the subject's going to be.
Stop. All right. So what about...
By the way, for next week's topic, the movie should be The Return of Superman. Or not The Return. Wait, no.
Superman Returns?
Where's... Oh, darn it. It's that movie about education, that documentary.
You don't know what it's going to be about next week. Shut up.
No, what's the name of it?
Okay, we'll talk about it
again.
Okay,
all right.
He's going to... I know what it is.
Edit creativity. Edit yourself, damn it.
Yes, I think you need to edit creativity.
Yeah, and I agree.
I think I figured out what
because it brings other points of view into your creative
You better edit all this out, Daryl.
Process.
What? Continue, Paul. Reiterate that, please.
I believe.
Hulk mad!
I believe in America! Okay, I do believe that we need to edit creativity because I think it improves products. And I also think it brings in other points of view. It doesn't have to just mean edit your own stuff, but have others edit it for you. Much like writing a book and having a copy editor go over everything, or a story editor or whatever. And just to get some honest critique and to build a better product.
We shouldn't be afraid so much of critique.
Most people who write, when they first start out, they think, oh, what I write, this is the way it's supposed to be. But the best books are the ones who have a good editor that helped the author understand where his stuff needed to be changed to be better or be clearer.
That's like I've been working on my curriculum vitae to apply for positions, and so I list everything, and I thought I did it right. It looks great, and I give it to a couple other higher ranked librarians and stuff. I say, hey, can you check this out? I want to apply for this job or whatever. And they didn't rip it, but it's like what I thought was correct was like totally different than what they know as a committee what you're looking for. So by them editing it has just made my resume that much better.
Yeah.
And I know a famous author said this, but it really is the case for me. I think I write fairly well, but I don't write fairly well the first time I write. I am a better rewriter. My first stuff is pretty much crap. I mean, the basic thread is there, the basic idea is there, but I literally will go over my work 3 or 4 times before I think it's anywhere near good. And I think that my best work comes from a very simple thread I start with, but it's all about the rewriting and putting in the right words. And but it's not just from me rewriting. One of the best things I ever did was I took a novel class in college, and I was working on a novel that I still have not published. That is 20 years ago. But anyway, in this novel class, we all read parts of their novel we worked on the week before. And it was great because people would point out things that I never would have seen. It was a very positive environment. And I had this one scene where it was like supposed to be a little bit kind of a love scene, and like the main character sees like a shooting star reflect in the iris of the eye she's looking in, and everyone's like, "Oh, come on, that's just so corny." I was like, I thought it was romantic.
It's like Anakin saying that he hates sand. The Padme.
Yeah.
And how soft she was.
Oh, soft.
You know, when you're on the beach, it just gets into places you don't want to talk about.
Yeah, dude.
Sand. Sucks.
All right, let's move this. Any more for editing? I think we all agree that editing, you shouldn't edit creativity to the point where it's
not at the beginning. I guess that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it really
at
is.
the beginning of the creative process, there should be no criticism.
Just throw it all out there.
Yeah, and that's why when he was talking, I think you were talking about. I'm forgetting the author's name that we read his book on how to write. Stephen King, where he said that just get it down.
Get it down, get it written.
Right, even if it's misspelled, anything, get the story down. That's the important
And he never
thing.
lets anyone look at that first beginning copy.
Get it down! Get down! Get to the chopper! Do it now! Write your book and get it published now!
I do to be Arnold Schwarzenegger making the funny voices.
Yeah, welcome to Incoherent Ramblings. We are today.
We should do a whole episode.
As Arnold.
Arnold this time.
We're going to talk about my armpit hair.
This episode is for Arnold's and a cop.
Oh, that's gross. I know what our next random ramblings is.
Oh, shit.
And even if we don't do that, it will be one of the choices.
That will all be coughing after 5 minutes.
No kidding. Oh, shit.
Damn it.
Yeah, you can't do that voice very long without it starting to make you cough.
Lots of water. Tell you.
What's the evil side of creativity?
Dr. Evil.
Doctor.
Well, I think an obvious choice. Obviously,
Shut up.
creativity can bring destruction to society.
Like the Joker.
How, Paul?
Well,
The Joker was creative.
it was
being
when the atom was split. That was very
creativity
creative.
is a bad
Actually,
thing.
yeah.
And now
That's a
we
good
have
point.
a bomb
I think that's
that we've destroyed people with.
I was gonna say, I bet you can't find an example, but before I said that, you came up with a really good example. Damn it! Yeah, that's great because Einstein obviously is incredibly creative. Found out how to split the atom.
Somebody created American Idol.
That was incredibly destructive to society. Somebody got
I
together
think the
and
Survivor was the one that
someone
really
got
did it.
together. Two people got together and created Ryan Seacrest, and he also is.
Yeah.
somebody created Honey Boo Boo.
How'd you know that was my topic for next week?
Oh, man.
Lucky guess.
We're
Lucky
getting
guess.
sketty next week.
So obviously, I mean, I guess it comes down. I said it again. Damn it!
Now you're going to can't talk because you're
You
going
need
to
to be
every time you want to
more
say
creative with your choice of words.
That's why he's a good rewriter.
Yeah. You break up the
Because
It's why
thesaurus
you know
later.
what? It's why I repeat myself so much. I am mentally rewriting everything I say. That's why I repeat myself. See?
Good point. True.
Anyway, so yeah, anything creative can probably be evil.
That's why, as you know, if you allow me, I will restate the same thing that I'm saying like 5 times over until someone stops me. You all know it. You've all stopped me before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and I are quite alike in that respect.
Right.
What
Sometimes
about?
I think just talking about something helps clarify it in your own way. Like you seem to. That's
why
kind
we-
of a creative process because you're saying something out loud.
Yeah.
And it gives you time to wrestle with it as well. Like, you might have spent a little internal quiet time, but now that you're presenting it to someone else, you realize new perspectives on it. You think, oh, I never thought to think about what I'm saying from Paul's perspective, for example. So how would Paul see it?
Yeah, it's
And
kind of
how
why
does
we.
that affect what I want to... I'm doing it.
It's kind of why we do this. I feel like this is the reason we got together to do this because we always had such great discussions. Not really to anybody else. We're really doing this mostly for us.
Yes.
Hey, this is for John Jors.
Yes!
Hey, shh.
Yeah, you can't.
John, somebody. Now you have to like make it.
Oh, sorry.
John.
Well,
it's only his website,
the thing is,
Joors.com. JOORS.
Okay, he's a
G.
he's a close relative, so I think it's okay. It's just I just think if we talk about other people that have no
are not in our
awareness
circle
of this podcast, then it's not so
sorry,
good to
John.
use the full name. That's fine.
I
don't
think.
he'll mind.
I mean, Juan.
Juan
Ors.
Juan Horus.
Why don't we wrap this up with two last things? First, we've already talked about education and creativity and how they relate, and Daryl's been talking about how it gets kind of pulled out of you. I think my idea is not so much that creativity is taken from you, but I think as a natural course of growing up, I think you lose a lot of the creative abilities that you have as you're younger. And I think instead it needs to be fostered to be kept. I understand that it probably can be taken away from you, but I don't think the school system necessarily actually pulls it out of you. I don't think it puts you down and drags you to the ground and just yanks and pulls until it's
yanks it
I'm
so
gonna
hard
stop
that
now.
it just comes out.
Yeah, I wasn't going that far, but
It's hot.
Suddenly my swamp ass has become greatly increased.
and it's not comfortable.
That's like something the Sith would say. I sense that my swamp ass has greatly increased.
Soon we reveal ourselves to the
suddenly
Jedi.
feel like someone screaming from their swamp ass. And
Soon
it's
we will
suddenly
lift
silence.
Soon we reveal ourselves to the Jedi. Soon our swamp ass will become greatly increased.
Soon we will be arrested for nudity in public.
Oh God.
Well,
I think we're done.
are we?
Okay.
We didn't talk at all about fostering or nurturing creativity.
Okay, and that's kind of what I was trying to get to, is that creativity, I think, is a natural process, but I also think you naturally lose it in the process of...
In a very creative way, I might add.
Yes, in the process of just growing up. And I think that, I mean, if you look at society, there is not a lot of openings for artistic positions. It's a supply and demand thing. Shut up. We're trying to...
You can get creative positions.
So,
Which brings us to our next topic.
in society, there's not a lot of places where you can actually survive, doing a good job being creative. I think that's changing, though, with the internet.
I think that people are creative in any position that they are in. But
are they givers or takers?
Some positions are more creative than others.
Well, because sometimes when you're in that position, it's really hard.
It is
to get a new view on what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And sometimes you just slip and fall and break your floor.
But sometimes it comes to you.
Yeah, what did you slip on?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Lube.
Lube.
Because like when you're upside down hanging from the rafters.
Yes, complete your thought.
The whole world is in a different point of view.
So this brings us, I think, to what is your favorite examples of creativity? Because Daryl, I know you want to extend this and go on to with other stuff, but it's not going to happen.
Favorite examples? I wasn't prepared for those. That's interesting.
Firefly, I think, is I like anything epic. Whenever you're able to create a whole world, create different facets, different characters in that world, and bring them all together in different storylines that connect at different places. There's a lot of difference in there, but that's what I like.
Cool.
I think my favorite example of creativity is watching my son play with toys. It's real interesting and fun to watch what adventures he's trying to do, and even like in his preschool and stuff. Maybe it's because I have a mind of a preschool, but it's a lot of fun to play with the kids and see their point of view on these adventures that they're creating in their mind.
I think that rather than say, specifically, because there's so many, creative things that I really enjoy, is that creative things that I really enjoy seem to be they're structured. They're not just random wild creativity, but within a certain...
Sometimes they get wild.
Within a certain structure, I like when people can be very creative within a certain structure. I like writing, where you... earlier I've been talking about the Dresden Files. I really, there's 14 books in this, and the guy just keeps cranking them out, and they keep being good. And I really appreciate his way of building on stories again and again, and intertwining them in ways that he didn't probably intend in the beginning, but it works. And so I guess in one respect that is one of my favorite creative endeavors.
It's a good one. What about you, Daryl?
I really like role-playing games and computer role-playing games that give you an open world where you get to kind of choose your own destiny. Mm-hmm. Because usually those kind of things are fairly creative in their own right, as are most video games, because they tend to have a lot of characters and maybe a whole world that's created for the sake of the game. But then if they give you this open canvas to, say you create a character, and then you get to determine your character's personality by just choosing your path through the game and how they develop and turn into somebody and make changes. And I'm a fan of things that are, even though it's not the most creative thing since it's done so often, I'm a pretty big fan of post-apocalyptic stuff, and I would have to say that Fallout is a really good series of games that gives you that multi-path way through the game where you can choose to do things a certain way. So you could play it once and be really good and righteous, or play it again and be just evil and villainous. And the game gives you that latitude to just kind of create your own character, and so you're working within the space of the creative game, but you also get to create something as you play.
An example of that, I think, is the internet. Mm-hmm. When the internet first started, all the experts predicted, well, it'll be for this, it will be for this, and it totally takes a left turn and became something huge and things that none of us could have imagined. Mm-hmm. that it becoming. And
now it's just it's an everyday part of life.
Now we look at it, of course it went that way. Yeah. That's the way it needed.
It's like a utility. It's just here.
Yeah.
So I think
double dragon, nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Devil's triangle
with himself.
That was the other guy. All right, so we're done with creativity. Let's talk about next week. Now, it's my choice. I wonder what I should possibly choose. Yeah.
I don't know.
We will be doing public education next week.
Wow.
Exhibitionism.
I read good.
And the movie is Waiting for Superman.
Yeah, which I haven't seen.
I said Return of Superman. That was just ridiculous.
Waiting for Kaufman?
Which I haven't seen, so it'll be worth watching.
Cool.
Stand and deliver.
We might have a guest too, because Hector Hernandez, who I work with, asked to be a guest. I'm going to send him the link on some of our shows so he can listen to them before he decides to be a guest.
Yeah, he might not want to be part of this.
A live in-person guest, or
that's a great way to get new listeners. I'm not sure. Invite them in first.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, just shock them with the whole thing.
Yeah. We should get the pizza guy in, man.
I'm not sure if he's going to join us or not, but he said he wanted to, so we'll see if he's available.
At this point, with 19 podcasts, oh my God, you can't expect him to go through all of them before.
No. Just he listens to Random Rambling, you'll get the point.
He wants to give him a test.
That's true.
A taste.
If he listens to Random Rambling, either one of those, he'll understand where we're coming from. So anyway, so that's this episode. Please email us. Remember, you can put our name in front of at IamRambling.com and email us individually. You may have emailed me because I don't think I set up my Joey at IamRambling.com to actually see if anybody said anything. But nobody has said anything to show at IamRambling.com. Otherwise, my
Paul.
Gmail would have said something.
Or Daryl.
Or Hulk. Hulk said.
Hulk at IamRambling.com.
Hulk has his own address.
Yeah.
Nice.
He doesn't. Anyway, thanks for joining us this week, and I'm glad you stuck around to the end. You should get a prize if you. We should have like a secret word. You get to this point, you put them all together, they make some sort of
swamp pants.
Swamp pants, roly poly swamp pants, or something like that.
Eat them up, yum. Oh. Eat them up. Ooh. That's it.
Yeah.
This Transformer is weird.
Why?
Because it's a two-headed dragon.
But
Well, it's not like a two-headed rabbit.
Okay, so this week's super secret word
you know what
is
I think is funny?
Orpheum Act.
What I think is funny is we all know where the stop button is, but we can't touch it.
You know, the
we
secret
have to wait
word-
for
well,
Daryl
Yeah, I know.
to push the button.
We didn't do
I don't want to be wrong.
We
Yeah,
didn't do our outro, though. Like, where can we
We
find
erased the whole
ourselves?
thing. Oh, okay. Sorry, no, it's my fault. Okay, so you can, thanks for joining us, and that's the end.
All right, see everybody.
Oh, wait, you can find me at, Daryl, hit the music, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's some good music.
Oh,
Woo!
nice, dude.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that guitar.
Yeah. If you can find me at IamRambling.com. What about you, Paul?
You can find me at
drums,
HeyIt'sPaul.com.
Alright, thank you.
Kale, where can they find you online?
Stop listening to music and forget.
I'm sorry. That music was so entrancing. You can
You know what'd be funny, Daryl, is you don't put any music in the background.
What's going to happen here is the music's a certain length.
right.
So, like,
Stop.
it's gonna. The longer we drag it out, the later it's gonna start. Like it'll probably be like right now.
Yeah. Good job. Awesome.
I did it.
Oh, you did it. Awesome.
Sorry, I hit stop. I thought it would be funny.
Joey.
Where can we find you, Kale?
You can find Kale Anderson at Rom's Rants at blogspot.com.
And Daryl.
At George.com, GIORS.
All
That's where you'll
right.
find Daryl.
So find us. Yay.
Now hit the stop.
Bye, everybody.
Damn it.
Be creative.
Alright. Love it.
Tits. Beelzebub.
Damn it.
Thanks for listening. You can now stop screaming at the open air. Listeners should put their minds back in their upright positions and resume traditional thinking. Find us on IamRambling.com for access to all of our weekly ramblings, show notes, general discussions, and any projects from Incoherent Ramblings. Like us on Facebook and rate us on iTunes. So long, and thanks for all the fish.